For those of you who don't know me, Phil Haslett, I'm Business Development Director at Best Practice, and I work with Neil and the board for OLP. As I probably just explained, I'm also Vice Chair of a multi-academy trust, and I've found the conversations this morning really interesting, actually. One of the things, so I want to talk a little bit about the kind of leadership landscape, NCTL, what their position in this is. If you've heard of it, the Leadership Foundation that's been formed by ASCL, NAHT, NGA, and just give you a bit of a picture where the kind of backing for the national qualifications is. And then to pick up on some of the things that we've been developing with OLP and what the future might look like for the partnership and how we might kind of develop as we move forward. I think before I go into that, one thing I would say, and I work nationally with teaching schools and on projects. I run a project down in London. The collaboration that exists within this partnership is outstanding, and I think that should be recognised and people should be proud of that. I know that it's been mentioned a couple of times already today, but it isn't reflected across the country. This is quite a unique partnership in the way that it's delivering these qualifications. And actually working together in this way, this is, I think, what is intended when people talk about a self-improving school-led system. And this kind of collaboration really supports that. So I think it is something that everybody involved should be really proud of, because it isn't replicated in other parts of the country. I think the other thing I'd like to just say before I start with the rest of it is also a thanks to everybody that's involved from the best practice side. I think there's a great commitment from the board, the affiliate hubs, to making this work, and I think I wouldn't want to leave this session without having said a thank you from our side, because without the support we wouldn't be doing this. So it's terrific from our perspective. Okay, so the landscape. Moving forward, the first thing to say is the licence has been extended until September 17. It was due to finish this year. 2 years ago now, I think, the role of NCTL was in quite significant doubt. They were moving backwards in terms of their provision. The online learning that existed from NCTL was kind of closed down. We've picked that up, and Tim, our online learning facilitator, if you haven't met him, is here today. And the role of NCTL was backing away from these qualifications, and the challenge to licensees was you need to lead this moving forward. So for 2 years, the licensees have been working on that. How far that's progressed at this stage is doubtful, I think. It's not been easy with 27 licensees across the country to try and work out how you protect the national qualifications. I think a lot of licensees looking at the situation saying, well, actually, why do NCTL need to back away from this? They're the brand behind it, the quality of what they've produced and of the materials is excellent, the licenses are working well, why does it need to change? At the most recent licensee meeting, it was suggested that things may have changed. The licenses have been extended for a year. NCTL certainly are taking more of an active role in managing it moving forward. They're expected to be funding moving forward for the qualifications. So I guess that landscape has changed. We do expect NCTL to be involved moving forward. We do expect them to be behind it. That doesn't mean that there won't be elements of the provision that we need to take more control of. But I think we have got the support there from NCTL moving forward. So that's a key point. You may have heard of the Leadership Foundation. I don't know whether show of hands if you have. It would be helpful to know, actually. Okay, so not many. Leadership Foundation. This has been promoted by ASCL, NAHT, and the NGA. That came from the initial conversations that were taking place between licensees about how to protect the future of the licenses. So the idea was there would be a leadership foundation set up that was school-led, and it would kind of take over some of the functions that that NCTL had delivered in terms of developing content, initial gateway assessment for MPQH, final assessment, those kind of things. As part of that conversation, then obviously the three unions there were involved. They've set up the foundation, and they're currently in discussions with the department about how that might move forward and how that might work with NCTL. So it's an organisation that's there. It's been constituted. It's supported by those three organisations, and will be in the landscape. So you just need to be aware of them. Obviously, we've talked about growth of MATs, so I don't need to keep going on about that. I think it's obviously a key part of the landscape that we're thinking about in relation to these qualifications. And the last point there says national funding formula. I mean, probably that more means in general funding, I think, really. You know, we recognise as a partnership that funding is going to be tight over the next 2 or 3 years, and that because of that, we need to make sure that we're supporting to be able to deliver the qualifications in a, well, value for money, and that they're affordable for people to be able to access. So those are some of the context behind, I think, our thinking. We've talked a bit about some of these points already today. OLP development, some of the things that we've been looking at. The leadership diagnostics, the tool has already been mentioned. I'll go into that one in a bit more detail in a second, but the idea is there that we can actually use those diagnostics in a much better way. They exist already within the qualifications, but actually it's for an individual, and what we'd be looking to do is try and use that in a way to try and assess the need within the system. So I'll explain that again in a second. School business management has been added. It's supported by the National Association of School Business Managers. There is some information in the back of the review documents. It's moved on. I mean, you'll remember them probably as CSBM, DSBM, and ADSBM, levels 4, 5, and 6. That was the National College funded programs. They are now accredited by the Institute of Leadership and Management, ILM, supported by the National Association of School Business Managers, and they're linking in the new school business manager standards that they've published into those qualifications. And they are, I'm sitting on the board at the moment with them in terms of looking at the development of those qualifications. And one of the things they'll be looking to try and do is access funding from the SFA, the Skills Funding Agency, which you'd normally expect to see around apprenticeships and those routes. So they are looking at how they can access funding in a different way to support those qualifications moving forward. Again, we're thinking about executive system leadership. We've discussed that already. I think the bit that we probably didn't go into that was mentioned is around governance, and actually the role of directors in multi-academy trusts. I'm a governor of a school and a director of one of the trusts, and I recognise those roles are very different, and they shouldn't be perceived as the same. There's different skill sets required for a board of directors for a trust than there is of a local governing body. So we will be looking at how we support that area as well. We talked a little bit about the faith leadership, and I know everyone's very proud of what's happening there with ML, SL and MPQH. I think the MPQH is going to be linked to the I'll get this wrong.
Catholic Leadership Certificate.
Yeah, the Catholic Leadership Certificate. So that's a really positive development from that perspective, and it's contextualising the programs. It's not generating something new, it's contextualising the programs for that area and that particular context. So it's something we want to do. If we feel that there are other areas we should be looking at, we want to hear that. If there's needs, demands that you guys face that we need to look at, then we want to hear more about it. This one's come up, we've done it, it's being successful hopefully. So a really positive development for the partnership. We have done, as was mentioned earlier, we've already kind of looked at the leadership provision for multi-academy trusts. From my perspective, what does that mean? It means, you know, a multi-academy trust of 12 schools is going to look at accessing leadership development in a different way to a standalone school might. They may want the programs delivered for them as qualifications across their trust. They may want it slightly more embedded across the way that they look at leadership development in their trust. they may want to access part of these qualifications. So I think we need to look at how we're flexible, and I don't think that's a one-size-fits-all. We've talked about different governance structures for MATs, and some quite radical ones already, but actually that does mean that actually the leadership development for them is going to be different. We can't just say here's a model for multi-academy trusts. We need to try and make that work for every individual. And the other thing we've been looking to try to do is make sure that all of the component parts of these qualifications, that's ML, SL, MPQH and the school business management qualifications, are available as online courses. So all of the essential modules, all of the electives, all of the component parts of the school business management qualifications are there as online courses, facilitated online courses by Tim and his team. We will be looking at how we make those available to people for a school. If you decided you wanted to do the Closing the Gap module for all of your leaders, then actually there'd be a way of delivering that for you, as well as people actually going on and doing the full qualifications. The diagnostic reporting tool, I just wanted to give you a bit more of an idea of what we're trying to do with this. So I guess you all know what the diagnostic is at the moment. Obviously, it's the start and end point for the ML, SL and MPQH qualifications. Everybody completes their 360 diagnostic at the start. We did spend the time putting that together as an online tool. I think a lot of licensees, once the National College removed the functionality to do it online, a lot of licensees have just moved back to a paper-based version of it. We have taken the time to put that online, and we've been developing that further over the last couple of months to try and improve the reporting on it. So actually what you've got at the moment is three levels of diagnostic. There's also a governor one actually that sits as part of the NCTL Governor Leadership Programme. We want to make that available to people at both a school level and a trust level. So actually you could use that diagnostic as part of your annual performance cycle if that's what you wanted to do. So the reporting is structured to be by level. So if you wanted all of your middle leaders to complete the diagnostic at the start of the year to assess where their leadership capacity and skills are, so you can see gaps, trends across that middle leadership level, you can. You could do it across the whole school to see where the gaps and skills are, and across a trust or alliance. So it's structured so you can report in that way. At the moment it's very much structured around an individual completing it, and you can get your own report. Moving forward, you'll be able to get reports at all levels, and I think that's a really powerful tool to be able to let you see what leadership capacity looks like in a particular organisation or a particular level within an organisation, and then make decisions about what you do with leadership moving forward from that. So I think that's a really good development. That will be available after Easter. I mentioned the online. This was just an example of some of the online courses, and I do think these will be, we're trying to make these available as facilitated courses online so that people can access these outside of the qualifications if there is a particular demand. For example, if you use one of those diagnostics to identify a gap in a skill set in middle leadership that you wanted to address, and one of the online courses would help with that, you could actually commission that for all of your middle leaders, and actually have, if you wanted to, a blended approach to it, so you could have a facilitator come in and deliver it. So there's a different approach there. And all of that is about trying to make what is a rich set of content and materials and a high quality set of leadership tools available to people in the way that they need it. It's just accessibility, really. So that's kind of where we are. Some of that's already been discussed. I think to conclude it, I think what I wanted to say was this is what we see. We want to deliver outstanding leadership in the Northwest, outstanding leadership development, I should say, in the Northwest. We want it to be comprehensive, and we want it to meet the needs of the schools, the school leaders, the trusts, whatever shape or form it fits within the Northwest. We think we've got a great partnership here that's able to really do that. So from our perspective, what we want, it's a bit cheesy, for you to work with us to do it. And I think at times it can feel like a one-way street from our perspective. We're telling you a lot of the stuff we're doing here. There's a board that's obviously discussing these things, and we think we're making the right decisions. But we really want that feedback coming back from the system. What are your challenges? What are your needs? How could we do things differently? You know, it's a fast-changing landscape. We've heard all about it today. There are lots of things happening at the moment. If we can support leadership development to make sure that it isn't a concern for everybody in their schools, that actually there is a solution there that they can access, then that's our aim. And I think that's what we want to try and achieve with you guys as a partnership.